Presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Hello and welcome to Cop Talk, the radio show and podcast of the Strong Blue Line. I'm Tim Rupp. Here with me, I'm still trying to get that, Gary.
It's coming, Tim. It's coming.
Is the operations manager, Gary Austin, the Rev.FM studios. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Tim Rupp.
Hey, we're moving right along. You know, last time we talked about morality and people. Well, what's it got to do with cops? I mean, you know, if everybody's moral and did everything right, there would be no need for cops.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's kind of like we did that. So we talk about a wide variety of stuff here, not always just specifically limited to law enforcement, but almost every area of life touched law enforcement. Some point, somewhere, not, you know, people not getting along and they call the police and everything.
Right.
A cat up in the tree and they call the police.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, we're going to talk about smart guns, Gary.
Oh,
I know you have a smartphone, but do you have a smart gun?
I don't have a smart gun.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that. But before we do, we're going to honor the officers who were slain in the line of duty on this date in history. And I have Patrolman Walter M. Rogers, Memphis Police Department, Tennessee. End of watch Tuesday, June 4th. Can you believe it's June already, Gary?
That is crazy.
It's months.
I don't believe
this year's almost half over.
Yep.
June 4th, 1867. A man had been drinking all night when an off-duty patrolman approached. The officer found the suspect was armed, and he confiscated the suspect's weapon and told the suspect to go home. See, that's discretion that an officer uses. You know
That's
what?
right.
You got a gun on you. You know what? You're drunk. You don't need the gun. Just go on home.
Yeah.
The suspect became enraged and attacked the patrolman, taking his gun back and disarming the officer. He then held 2 men at gunpoint. When Patrolman Rogers arrived on the scene, he was shot and killed by the suspect. The suspect was arrested, convicted of manslaughter, and sentenced to 5 years in prison.
My goodness.
How do you get 5 years out of that? Manslaughter, that's murder.
Yeah.
Maybe they said, well, he was drunk or something. You know, that's not, voluntary intoxication does not overrule, but this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So maybe they thought, well, he really didn't know what he was doing, but still, anyways. Patrolman Rogers was a U.S. Army veteran of the Civil War and had served with the Memphis Police Department for only a month. 26 years old.
Man.
1 month on the job, and he's murdered. Wow. What do you have, Garrett?
This is police officer Emmanuel Familia from the Worcester Police Department out of Massachusetts. Friday, June 4th, end of watch, 2021. So these are all very unfortunate line of duty deaths. But so police officer Manny Familia drowned while attempting to rescue a juvenile who had gone underwater in a small pond. So pretty interesting. Several juveniles were playing in a small pond in a place called Green Hill Park, and 3 of them who had gone into the water became distressed. And one of the juveniles went underwater and failed to surface. So Officer Familia and several other officers responded to the pond and, of course, entered the water in an effort to save all 3. And officers were able to bring the other 2 juveniles to shore. However, Officer Familia failed to surface while trying to save the 3rd juvenile.
Wow.
Very interesting. Officer Familia was recovered from the water approximately an hour later and transported to a local hospital where he was later pronounced dead. The juvenile's body was recovered approximately an hour after the officers. Officer Familia had served with the Worcester Police Department for 5 years, survived by a wife, son, and daughter, 38 years old.
Well, so he entered policing a little bit later in life.
Yeah.
33 when he entered policing, at least when he got out with that agency.
Yeah, right.
And so, but here he is, you know, kids play. You know, how many times you done something dumb when you were a kid, Gary?
Oh, my
All
goodness.
the time we go, I mean, especially boys.
Yeah.
They go off and they do crazy things, and police are called to to get them out of the scrape they put themselves into.
Yeah, right.
And it was in June, so it wasn't like it was wintertime.
No. Yeah. It is kind of one of those stories that kind of makes you, kind of wonder. It's like, I wonder what caused him to not come up. What happened?
How much of his gear did he take off before he went in? And you got the vest, and your body armor and all that.
That's true.
That's a lot of heavy stuff. And even if you take that off, you still have, you're still dressed pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's
but again, a testament of they showed up and knew what to do. They didn't stand by.
They didn't. They didn't stand by and watch. They got right in there.
Yep.
And it cost him his life. That's too bad. Okay, I told you, Gary, we're going to talk about smart guns, and this is an editorial page, so keep that in mind. This is an editorial, a guest editorial in Law Enforcement Today magazine, online magazine, and the title is "Even Smart Gun Makers Know Mandates Are a Dumb Idea." Okay, and this is written by Jake McGann.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah,
for the NSSF, and that is the National Shooting Sports Foundation.
Huh.
So this guy's writing for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. What this foundation is, it's just people that shoot guns for sporting purposes.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously pro-gun. Never underestimates the capacity for anti-gun lawmakers to chase after bad ideas. It starts out. Fortunately, Kai Clofer, founder and CEO of BioFire, a smart gun company, is on the list of those telling lawmakers that mandating restrictions of what can and cannot be sold just doesn't work. In fact, it is counterproductive. So far, Clofer's company is the only company that's brought an authorized user technology equipment firearm to the market. So what this is talking about, Gary, is they've been testing guns for many years now to see if they can come up with a gun that can only be fired by the owner.
Mm.
In other words, if I took my pistol out, laid it here, if it was a smart gun, if you picked it up to shoot it, you wouldn't be able to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I picked up to shoot it, I would be able to do it. So how did they do that? They tried at one time. They figured, well, if they got a certain ring that I would wear on my finger when I put it in there, that the ring would match up, and then I'd be able to shoot it. And if you didn't have the ring, you couldn't shoot it. They thought about fingerprint identification.
Uh-huh.
If you put your fingerprint on there, then you can, just like a BioSafe. You put your fingerprint, or if you got an Apple computer, you put your fingerprint. And I've got an Apple computer, and the fingerprint works most of the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to mess with a little bit, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the idea. And so I looked into this gun that they'd produced, and this gun is neither of them. It's actually it reads by facial recognition.
Oh.
And so our smartphones have that now.
They do.
You can set it up where it'll read your face and you don't have to put in the password, touch your fingerprint. It's pretty cool on your smartphone.
Yeah, until you have sunglasses on.
Until you have sunglasses on or a hat or something like that, and you got to take it off and whatever, and you got to punch the code in.
Yeah.
But they have this on a gun, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Would I want one of them guns? No.
No,
I have no need for that.
No,
and it showed the advertisement. It showed the gun sitting on a shelf, and it was right there. Anybody could pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
It showed kids, in their little commercial. It shows kids running around, so the kids could pick it up, but the kids couldn't use it. Only the people whose facial recognition was in there, which is a good idea. If that's what you want, you feel safer with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then get a gun like that for your protection. You'll feel safer. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that gun is, Gary, is first of all, it has to read it right during all lighting conditions, and glasses or no glasses or whatever,
right.
All this kind of stuff that you mentioned, and it can't, and sometimes you may be in a situation where the gun is not straight out in front of you.
Exactly.
You may have to turn around a corner in something where you're not right behind it, and it's not going to fire.
Yeah.
If it's not recognizing the face. So good and bad about this. But this company agreed, the CEO of the company said, that's not a good idea for states to mandate that. And say, what state would mandate that? New Jersey would.
Yeah.
New Jersey had an existing mandate requiring every firearm retailer to carry at least one smart gun if that technology becomes available in the state. So that would be like mandating all automobile companies to have EVs. Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do.
But that's, that would be like you, Gary, if you owned a used car and you had 20 used cars out there, and they mandate that for every 10 used cars, you must sell an EV.
Yeah.
I mean, and they put that would not be good for you.
No.
You'd
I wouldn't like that.
You'd probably get an EV and just put it out there for $100,000 so nobody would buy it. You wouldn't have to sell it. Anyways, we also opposed the original New Jersey mandate that was repealed because of the bill's sponsor. Ultimately agreed that what over 20 years ago they mandated. What they did is they pushed for this to be a requirement. And also in Massachusetts, another one, not surprising, mandated. Lawmakers formed a special legislative commission on emerging firearm technology. This is a commission of lawmakers, several gun control experts, and even the patent holder for microstamping technology. The NSFF, which is the National Shooting Sports Foundation, has a token seat on the commission to give it a veneer of inclusiveness. The commission is a window to the lengths all lawmakers will go to find an innovative ways to wrestle away from law-abiding Massachusetts citizens what's left of the Second Amendment in the base state. What they did, Gary, this is crazy. They said if this smart gun comes out, then every gun owner has to have a smart gun. They can't use anything. Once they come out, that's the only they can use.
Right.
And they're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Even the guy that developed this gun said that's a crazy idea. That's like Elon Musk with the EVs. He said, you can't force people to do this. Give them a choice. The market will drive sales.
Yeah.
If people want it, you provide me with an EV that's at the same price, competitive price to a gasoline car. You provide me with an EV where I can drive 500 or 600 miles and I can charge it up again in 5 minutes.
Right.
Like I can fill up my gas tank in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Then you have my attention. But when I'm driving across country, driving 300 miles and got to stop 2 or 3 hours for it,
Exactly.
I'm not going to get that car.
No.
If you're just driving around town, it may be a good deal.
Right.
But all this other stuff, that's just not. Let them market
has a ways
drive
to go. Yep.
When they can do that. Massachusetts has among the strictest gun laws in the nation. Anyone wanting to legally buy a gun must first obtain a firearm identification, costing applicants $100 just to apply. Imagine that in Massachusetts. You want to go to buy a gun, you got to first buy an ID to get a gun that costs $100.
Yeah.
I
don't like that.
Wasn't there something about voting cards and not requiring people to have IDs because of voting cards because it violated their constitutional right to vote?
Yep.
What about violating the constitutional right to bear arms by
Exactly.
requiring a $100 tax on it?
Yeah. That is not good.
No, it's not. An FID card is required to purchase, possess, and transport rifles, shotguns, and ammunition. So if you take my truck out for a spin and you get pulled over and they found a box of ammunition that I left in there and you don't have an FID,
right?
You're in possession of.
Yeah.
It's a criminal violation. Pistols require another license altogether, a license to carry.
Oh my goodness.
Both of these government-issued permission slips come with a background check, which requires completion of state-mandated firearm safety course. That's all before purchasing a firearm, which requires its own background check. So if you're going to purchase a pistol, you have 3 background checks. And who's paying for that? You're paying for it.
Exactly.
Oh, every gun in the state is required to be registered. When I lived in Texas, we didn't have registration for guns. Idaho's the same thing. You don't have to get your guns registered. No. And people from different states, well, where do you register your gun? Like, we don't register guns here. Really? You don't? No. I've got pistols, rifles, shotguns. I can sell you, Gary. Say, hey, Gary, you want a gun for $100? I can sell it to you $100. That's it.
Right.
You got it's personal property.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that causes all. You know what? There are millions and millions and millions of guns in this country.
Yeah.
And if you made laws right now to do away with them all, there's still going to be millions and millions of guns.
Exactly.
And the only people that's going to give them up are the honest people. Mm-hmm. The bad guys are not going to come and give up their guns. Mm-hmm. They own them illegally anyways. And they're going to continue to do so. Anyways, it's just crazy that the things that they're requiring. One other thing they said that they will not. You can't own a modern sporting rifle, mainly built on the AR-15 platform. And a lot of people think, well, the AR, what's that stand for? Assault rifle? No.
No.
Armalite rifle. It's the name of a rifle.
Yeah.
It's Armalite rifle. That's where the AR came from. It didn't come from a assault rifle.
No.
Many people think it is. It's a sporting rifle. And is it the same platform that the M16 is? Yes, it's the same platform. Mm-hmm. It's a good platform. It's a proven platform. Magazines with the capacity of more than 10 rounds are forbidden, labeled erroneously as large capacity magazine, when in fact they're standard capacity. Standard capacity for an AR-15 is a 30 round magazine. 30 is standard. 20, I've got a couple 10 rounders and a couple 20 rounders. I had to go out of my way to try to find them and buy them. And I wanted a lower capacity one. A lot of times I'll go someplace and I'll let people shoot my rifle. Mm-hmm. And guys want to line up and shoot it. And I don't want to give them a 30 round magazine. They'll fill it up with 30 rounds.
Right.
Just put 10 rounds in there. Yeah. Let the next person shoot and things like that. So, and if you're hunting, put 10 rounds in there.
Right.
It's lighter to carry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I also have 60 round magazines. Don't have any of the 100 round drums. I would. That'd be awful heavy.
That's cool.
That's a lot, but there's a lot of people. They got money. They can shoot it up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adults under 21 can't buy a gun either. They can vote, of course. They can exercise all their gun rights, other rights protected under the U.S. Constitution. They can enter into legal contracts and join the military. Those adults, although can't legally exercise their right to keep and bear arms. So you have an 18-year-old young man, or even a 17-year-old, can go into the Marine Corps, get trained how to use and fire an M60 machine gun, but he can't go down and buy a shotgun or go down and buy a rifle or something. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I don't agree with it.
Criminals are a different story. They just buy them on the street corner. But Massachusetts lawmakers think they have an answer to that, too. That's why they commissioned exploring the idea that requiring all guns sold in the state to be smart guns. Could you imagine that?
Man.
I mean, if these smart guns were, first of all, this thing's pretty big. It's got like a screen on the back of it. So it's not, it doesn't just look like another gun. It looks like something out of Star Trek or something, one of them big things. And so you have this thing, so it's inconvenient if you're going to carry it. But if you can get my Glock model 43X and it would just fire for me and it wouldn't fire for anybody and it was reliable and trustworthy, I'd have no problem having a smart gun. That'd be great.
Yeah.
The thing is, the technology isn't there yet. It hasn't caught up yet. And so there's still some things going on.
Well, it's very similar to what we've talked about before on the show is that you can have so many laws restricting.
See, I'm rubbing off on you, Gary. I'm rubbing off on you.
Restricting gun purchases and gun owners and possession and things like that. But people are still going to commit murder or whatever it is.
They're going to.
They're still going to find a way, whether it's bombs or knives or.
What you're doing is you're creating. If let's say all guns were smart guns, automatic overnight.
Okay.
Just every one of them.
All right.
They're smart guns. You don't think a bad guy's going to be able to get by that?
Exactly.
And it's going to be another market.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can get past your smart gun and bring it to me. I'll charge you $500 and I'll do something to it and it'll work.
Yep.
And that's what's going to happen. There's always going to be somebody that's going to beat it.
Yep.
So it goes back to what we were talking about last week. Mm-hmm. It's a moral issue. It's, if somebody without morals, somebody that's going to commit murder, somebody that's going to take advantage of people, steal from people, whatever it is, criminal mindset, that comes from within.
Mm-hmm.
You can put all the restrictions. You can take criminals, Gary, and put them in prison. Guess what? You have crime in prison.
Yeah.
You have murders
Exactly.
being committed in prison.
Yeah.
You have thefts. You have rapes. You have assaults
Yep.
in prison. So the answer isn't restricting the people or whatever. The answer is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of the heart.
Yep.
And
I agree.
If we can change the heart, then we can change the behavior. You
Yeah.
don't change the behavior trying to change the heart. We can restrict behavior.
Yeah. Right.
We can
all
put-
day long.
We can require everybody to wear handcuffs all day.
Yeah.
That's going to cut down on assaults. You're not going to have the number of assaults you have now if everybody were required to wear handcuffs all day when they're in public,
Right.
and even at home because you want to beat your wife or your husband.
Mm-hmm.
But is that realistic?
No.
That's restricting freedoms. You can control behavior, but you cannot control thought.
Yeah.
Talk about the thought police.
Yeah.
It's just like the little boy that gets in trouble and his daddy says, "You sit there in that chair until I tell you to move." And he whispers under his breath, "Yeah, but on the outside I'm standing."
Mm-hmm.
You can make him stay there, but you need to change the heart.
That's right.
You got to change the heart. Once you change the heart, and the only person who can change the heart is the Lord, and to change our heart, to want to serve Him and to want to obey His rules.
Yes.
And so, there's always going to be people in society that basically live by the rules.
Yeah.
And most
Most
people
people.
do.
Yep.
Most people want to, as best they can, live by the rules. They don't go out and murder people. They don't steal from people. They don't do this. But there's always going to be part of society that will. We're always going to have that. And there needs to be punishment for that from the governing authorities. The Bible talks about that. There needs to be punishment from the governing authorities. And it needs to be severe enough to change that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
To want to change, because if I like to speed, Gary, and every time I get a speeding ticket, it costs me $1, and my insurance is not affected and nothing else, and I can just mail it. Matter of fact, I can play the officer right there. I can just take out my smartphone and pay him out of Apple Pay $1 for speeding, and I'm on my way. Is that going to deter me from speeding?
No.
Because the only inconvenience is being pulled over and stopped and delayed for 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
That's it. That's the only deterrent. But if the deterrent is if you're caught speeding 1 mile over the speed limit, they're going to confiscate your car. They're going to give you a $10,000 fine. You're going to spend 3 days in jail, and you got to go get your car out.
Yeah.
I would be 5 miles under everywhere I went because I don't want to be I don't want to by mistake go over the speed limit because I don't want to suffer the consequences. So don't tell me that punishment is not a deterrent.
Exactly.
It is, but punishment must fit the crime.
Yeah.
I was when I was doing some research for the show. I got into looking at something, and I got to looking. I think it was New York State in early executions by the state, and this was back in the 1700s, and there were people who were hanged for theft, for fraud. I'm like, oh my goodness!
Wow.
I mean, it was like, wow. It was like that's a little extreme, you know. Somebody committed a burglary and they hanged him. I mean, that's like, okay, that would deter me from being burglars. But the crime needs, and I think we agree in America that that's probably excessive punishment. You know, but the punishment must fit the crime, and it must be swift, and it must be sure, and that's going to deter. That doesn't mean that the judges shouldn't have the option of, you know what, this is your first time. You know, I could throw the book at you. You go to prison for 2 years for this,
right?
But I'm going to put you on probation. Keep your nose clean, and I agree with that, and that's great. But then they do it again and again and again, and all they do is get probation, and then it's like giving me a $1 speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And it's like, why worry about it? I don't care. I'll pay the $1 and I'll drive as fast as I want to drive.
Yeah.
So there's deterrent. Now, should I obey the speed. Oh, absolutely, I should obey the speed limit.
Right.
Because I should do that. One thing, because it's morally the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, they put the speed limits in effect for reasons. Because, I mean, the state really don't care how fast you're going, but they don't want you to get hurt or hurt somebody else. So they have speed limits. They try to do the best they can. We don't always agree with them, but we need to obey them speed limits as much as possible.
Yes, we do.
And Gary, we are out of time again.
Oh!
Yes, we are. So that concludes the Smart Gun Show. Hey, thanks for listening. If you have a topic, question you want to address on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. coptalk@therev.fm. You can catch Cop Talk on Amazon, Google, Apple, YouTube, and Spotify podcast platforms. A thought from the good book today: for from within, out of the heart of man, come murder. Thanks for joining us and help us to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.